1230 a.m. New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Our election coverage is continuing with the Florida GOP celebrating what he calls historic wins. Donald Trump and Rick Scott scored double-digit victories yesterday. Republican turnout was 86%, which the party says was a record. Florida Democrats say they'll keep fighting after voters rejected Amendments 3 and 4. Amendment 3 would have legalized recreational marijuana for those 21 and over. Amendment 4 would have legalized abortion until fetal viability and, in some cases, beyond that. President Trump is the winner of Louisiana's 8 electoral votes. Trump defeated Vice President Kamala Harris by 60 to 38% of the Louisiana vote in Tuesday's election. And Elon Musk says former President Donald Trump has been given a crystal clear mandate by the American people. In a series of posts overnight on X, the Tesla billionaire celebrated Trump's projected victory and wrote, "The future is gonna be fantastic." Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
New Schools for New Orleans, along with Allstate Sugar Bowl and Entergy New Orleans, would like to send a huge congratulations to our class of 2024 New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Award honorees. This year, we had 90 Teachers of the Year from each public school in New Orleans. Each of them was recognized at our annual gala, where we had over 350 attendees. We're excited to also share that each honoree is receiving a $1,000 classroom grant. Thank you for everything you do, teachers.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 a.m.
Wake up, New Orleans, OT, Dr. Wyatt, the early bird, Naira, on the box, man. What a, well, look, surprise. You know, you work towards peace, but you prepare to go to war. I'm not saying we got to prepare to war, but let me say this, right? Anybody who thought that Dr. Wyatt and I would be down, discouraged, knocked out, subdued. The people we talk to, guys, look, as disappointed as we can be,
yeah,
we are energized about now, what do we do as a collective?
Yeah.
How do we analyze what happened? Now we know who's who,
Yeah.
right?
Don't let Susan from accounting tell you that she voted for Kamala, because she lying.
But I want to ask you a question right off the bat, right? I want to start with this because at the end of the day, elections matter, who's in charge matters, and the effect on our kids and families matter, right? So, James, hold on for a second, right? I want Dr. Wyatt to set the table. Doc, you've committed your life to education and our children.
Yes.
Right? I got to ask you, right? So what does it mean in terms of public policy? What can we expect and what can we prepare for when you talk about a national education plan now?
We could prepare for a full implementation of Project 2025, starting with who he's going to choose to run to be the Secretary of Education.
So who you think? I mean, who you
Amber
think?
Rose. Amber Rose. They're gonna be. They're gonna be.
Now come get. Wait.
Amber Rose. They're gonna be slut walking through curriculum.
James.
Yeah.
Wait. James.
Waka Flocka gonna run housing for him.
Wait.
You
Amber Rose is gonna be the Secretary of Education.
Slut walking through the curriculum. Yes.
Dr. Wyatt.
Because if you want to destroy something, you send people who are ill-prepared to keep it together. He doesn't want it anyway.
Who are not qualified.
So why would he
Who
put
have no
anybody? He's not going. Betsy, she gonna be the new Betsy DuVos because she didn't know either. She has zero clue.
Did you see what when you want to destroy something,
you send unqualified people.
Yes, absolutely.
You if you need something to put a hem in your pants,
right.
but you really don't want the hem to stay, then you gonna ask me to do it. You better ask my grandmother. She know how to hem things. Don't ask Dr. Wyatt. That's not my ministry. I'm just being real here. Listen, the truth of the matter is they pulled the wool over your eyes and they knew
all those polls.
They knew they allowed those people to poll and say they were going to vote for her.
People lied.
They allowed those because they knew he knew something we didn't know.
And white women, they did a Tammy Wynette. They stood by their man.
They stood by him, and even in the parts of the country where they never come outside,
yes,
they came outside and they voted for him.
Wow, man, that was that. And then Hispanics doubled their support.
They did because they don't see themselves as othered. People of color.
James. Dr. Wise said Amber Rose.
Amber Rose.
Of education. Line number 1, Mr. James. Good morning. God bless you, man.
Good morning. God bless everyone.
Good morning.
All right. We're going to be all right.
It's going to be all right. Yeah, you can't drink Lamar.
It's going to be all right.
See, that's what they always underestimate, James. We have a built-in thermometer of how to be all right.
This morning, I'm calling to get on y'all tail.
Talk to
Get on us.
No, man, we ready for it.
So, I hope you see that question you asked Big John the other day when he answered y'all the way he answered y'all. Y'all was running around.
He was telling on himself.
Before you crossed the finish line. And I hung I turned the radio off. I said, no, they didn't just jinx us like this.
He was telling on himself. Well, Don, if you listening, when I asked you what you was going to do, you was playing around.
That was the first time I heard Don take a pause. Did
I stop him in his track?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no, I ain't putting that on Don. I'm putting that on y'all.
Come on. Come with it. Come with it. What did we do, James?
Next time I see you at Walmart, James, I'm going to buy you a loaf of bread.
The finish line.
Huh?
I'm telling you, I see y'all went to celebrating before we crossed the finish.
No,
line.
it wasn't a celebration as much as it was what we wanted to see happen. But we'll take our lick.
Hey, James, we're gonna take that.
Y'all was happy.
Look,
James. Dog, no, they did.
James, we'd have been punched in the throat
James,
before.
You wrong for that, James. You know we love you. But
many times you take your lick and keep ticking.
Absolutely.
Dr.
Big
Wise and I
facts.
was up last night.
Big facts.
Strategizing.
Yep.
Talking about what do we have to do.
Because like I said, either way, whoever wins, are we prepared for November 6th? That's what I said.
Yeah.
So listen, let's be clear. We are under no illusion here because we know what the fabric of this country is. And we are not shocked.
Hey, James,
we are not shocked.
James, we just look stupid, yeah. We not.
No, we not.
But we're gonna take our L. We're gonna hold it.
And I disagree, nor do we look it, man.
That's right.
I did my thing. I did what I was supposed to do. First thing I looked at after I saw the results when I opened my eyes at 5:30 this morning, I said, let me go and look at what our city did. Let me go look at who did what in our state.
Right.
Do you realize there's only, I think, 4 parishes that voted for this woman?
Yeah.
3 of the 4 were predominantly black.
That's right.
And the 4th one, it was a little parish. I never even heard of this parish before in my life. And I think the count was something crazy, 51 to 49 percent.
Yeah.
And then that's in terms of black versus white.
Right.
I mean, if you want to break it all the way down, like New Orleans across the board, just in East Baton Rouge and St. John Parish, boy, we stood up as a community and said no. So I'm proud. I am proud that I can at least hold that.
We got work to do.
Yeah, we got work to do. Yeah. But we came together as a community and said no.
But look, James, let me tell you, and Dr. White and I talked about this immediately, right? The most telling, there were 2 things that were extremely telling. Well, 3. When they showed that map, right, of the whole country, right, places where white folk hadn't voted or where they had checked out of voting, they came out and voted, right? And we keep talking about 2040 and 2050, right? But there's 330 plus million people in this country. Hispanics and blacks together don't make up 30%.
Nope.
So what it's gonna be, it ain't right now.
Right.
You know, so we understood that. So when I looked at that map in the corners of much of this country, where people came out and voted, right? Where the posters, and Dr. White and I questioned those posters from day one.
Absolutely we did.
From day one. People are now not only distrustful of politicians, they're distrustful of pollsters too.
Yes. Because they're just data collectors, and we do know when we want the data to say what we want to say, we look at it in the parts where it's going to tell us what we want to hear.
Well, James,
let's just be clear here.
One more thing. I keep telling everybody, and everybody needs to wake up. Numbers can lie. Numbers can, in fact, and they showed you, numbers can lie. You could spin them.
Yeah.
You could put numbers out there, and you could turn them upside. You could flip them. You could put a letter around them.
Right.
Numbers can and will lie.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and you've heard me say it before for years. You know, during my break and coming back, it's what I've noticed politically. The pollsters, the consultants, the campaign advisors, and the political brokers are so far away from people that they don't have a clue or really idea.
That hustler mentality. They hustling.
They're hustling, making money.
They know nothing.
That you are absolutely
And what I
correct.
will say, James, before you go is, I'm going to push back on it because for me, numbers don't lie. It's the people who touching the numbers that are manipulating it to show what it's showing. Because if you actually let the numbers tell the actual story, then they will give you a picture of what is happening here. But when you have the poll saying one thing and then the numbers come out and say something else, then you have to ask yourself, what is the person who's delivering this poll to me? What was their actual goal? Was it to do the magic trick on us, make us pay attention to the left hand while the right hand doing what it's doing?
And James, first of all, thank you. God bless you.
We saying the same.
Absolutely,
thing,
we are. I appreciate you for noticing that.
We appreciate you. And James, let me say this, man, because the lines are lit up, right? Don't let our enthusiasm during the week fool you. We looked at the data. We understand history. You know, and we said something real clear.
Yes.
The last week and the last couple of days.
Yes.
Meet and work towards peace.
Yes.
But be prepared for the worst.
And
outcome.
I also said yesterday, no matter who wins, how do we get back to an idea of unity? Because if I didn't vote for you, you're still the president of these United States. So how do we move together and move forward in unity? Is that even possible?
No. So look, I am as enthusiastic about fixing our stuff and working with our community as I've ever been. Line number 2, Yella. God bless you. Oh, Yella. What's up, Papa?
Lower 9.
What's happening, Yella?
And Doctor.
Hi.
Talk to us.
It's been a long time, Lower 9.
It's been a long time since I met you.
I remember this question you asked me in 2015 about Trumpism. I don't know if you remember that. And you asked me, Yella, how long will Trumpism last? Here we are.
Here we are. The movement starts.
And if we let him have his way,
if
we let him have his way, we'll never vote for another president.
When he came down that escalator in 2015, that was part of a movement.
Mm-hmm.
It was a movement. The Republican Party has started. Now let me get to the meat and potatoes.
Talk to me, Yella.
We got some stupid people out here. We got a lot
don't
of
get mad at the people, Yella.
Let me start with black men.
What? No.
Look, bro, I'm from the 6th Ward.
I know where you from, Yella. You from where my daddy
That's right.
From.
All you Tyrone people, from now on, all you 14% of brothers, in my estimation, you're Tyrone.
No.
Okay? A song by Erykah Badu. That's the way I feel about y'all. Now, getting back to Hispanics. I never saw a culture who want to be white so bad.
Baby.
I never saw a culture of Hispanic men who will vote against their own interests. I just don't get it. 45% of Latins voted for Donald Trump. He want to deport y'all.
They doubled their
support. He wants to break up your family.
But Yella, you heard me tell a story years ago. Remember when I told a story, me and my teammates, when we went back, had a reunion in New Mexico, right? And we went to visit our coach at his ranch in Espanola, right? Mm-hmm. Hall of Fame Hispanic coach. He was our coach in college. And I'll never forget when I came back, Yella, remember I said that with one of the most interesting things to us when the conversation turned politically was that how they were anti-immigration. And these were Hispanics, and their comments was, we came here legally, we did everything right, and those other people are messing it up for us. That was a prevailing feeling. If folk will remember that we had the conversation on air.
Yes, we did. But here's the thing that gets me, and Dr. chime in, please, because the business community wants the immigrants, the cheap labor.
That's the hypocrisy of it.
Go ahead, preach to me, Lower, now. But the immigrants, the real people came here legal.
But that's no different than the white women.
And using it as a tool. They're playing both sides.
But we're not going to beat up on us on this one, Yella. But go ahead, Dr. Wise.
I listen, what I was saying was it's no different than the white women masquerading in their Democratic energy and then going into the boot and pushing the Republican button. It's no different. It's no different. Don't let Susan in accounting tell you she voted for Kamala. The numbers tell you what these folk actually went and did. And again, we were talking about it. There's parts of this country who don't even come outside.
But they came out.
They came outside.
They came out, Yella.
They came outside.
Educate. And here's what get me. And Doc, I know we're coming close to a break, and I haven't called in years and stuff because my mind and stuff. Lower income white women voted for Trump. Don't they realize, Doctor, that?
But higher income women in the suburbs, when they analyzed it, the polls were totally wrong. They voted for him too. But look.
But don't they get the rape and incest that Ella Mae Clampett? Okay, Ella Mae Clampett, all the hillbillies in these rural parishes that they can get raped and incest.
Oh, Yella.
Stand by your man.
Oh, Yella, you got to go. Dr. White, what Tammy Wynette say?
Stand by your man.
Stand by your man. Yella, we love you, Papa.
I love you, baby.
Don't be gone so long. All right. Line number 3, Miss Tree. You're on with Dr. White and OT.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
Hey, look, before you say anything, Miss Tree, I remember our last conversation on air. You said after listening to us, we convinced you that she had a chance because you said you was feeling so negative about it. It looks like your first instinct was right, but we ain't
You
stupid.
know what? She did a good. It doesn't take away from her campaign. What I was also saying is she ran a great campaign. This loss is not indicative.
That was a few months. She only had a few months too. So
yes, exactly. So she ran what she was supposed to run. But what happened was the sleight of hand, and I kept telling people that they had everybody looking over here at the black man and
That's
the black
what Dr.
man,
Wise
the black man that, and I knew you couldn't trust Becky and Karen. I knew we couldn't trust them. I knew it though. And so, like you said, they all came out, and that probably was part of they planning too, to get out here and pretend like they was on our side, knowing the full well right that they wasn't. Because I'm not gonna let nobody run with the narrative to talk about, black men or this or that. Because even a few that did run over there on that side, they couldn't have did no damage if white women would have stood on business like they claim they was. There's not even
the
enough
majority
of them
showed themselves. You cannot look. Yeah. Even if some people are still upset at Hispanic men, right? But there's still the other numbers are so large. And look, when Dr. Y and I, we both got it right. When they showed that map, if you heard what Dr. Y said. People who don't come outside in parts of this country that we didn't even know existed, they got in the game.
Yeah.
So people need to understand this. Don't run with no narrative on the Latinos men, like you said, even though they voted against their own interests. Black men.
It still ain't enough for them to have put them numbers together.
No, give all of this blame to who it belongs to. White women who chose whiteness over being a woman, over everything else in this world. They chose their whiteness. So let's give the blame, complete blame. Because as you say, the numbers of Latinos and black men, they don't even have enough of them to have outvoted white people if white women would have stood on business, period. So if we have people on the internet, on Facebook, Twitter, don't get it all up in y'all bunches talking about those few little black men that went on that side.
No.
And, it's a problem that the Latinos did what they did, but we understand what that is. But let's give this whole L on VP Harris to who owns it. White women. They owned it for Hillary, and we didn't give it to them like we should have. But they should hear nothing but white women.
That's right.
You're down bad all day long.
They made the same analyzation when you looked at the falsest of the polls with suburban women and white rural women who for Hillary. You're absolutely. I was one of the studies that I listened to last night on Priest. You're absolutely correct.
All I think about is Emmett Till.
Appreciate you.
That's all I think about.
Surprise, surprise.
Hey,
surprise,
Priest.
surprise.
God bless you. Have a great week, baby, because we're going to have a great week
We sure
here.
will.
Ain't no doubt about it. Oh, we got to go to break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, conversations with our councilman. It's interesting to get his take on it. And then we'll get into all those other issues. This budget. He's our budget chairman. We're in this process of analyzing the budget before we adopt it December 1st. But we're going to talk about this election.
We absolutely will. And I also want to say this before we go to break. Please don't let the full-on glee from your coworkers and people you see in the neighborhood bother you today. Because what I don't want to see is you take a L with this election and also be in somebody's prison.
No.
Because people are going to try to provoke you. Stay true to who you are. There's going to be some absolute glee on their faces, and they're going to be overtly nice to you. Probably haven't even spoken to you since you started that job. But don't let it get to you.
That's right.
You better understand who controls this whole thing.
It's a time for inward reflection.
Absolutely.
It's a time for
don't fall for the
composure.
okie doke.
And it's a time. What's the November the 6th?
Yeah.
You said that was the day.
That's the day. And here we are.
That's the day.
And here we are. Are we prepared for it?
WBOK 12:30 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Hey, whose station?
Our station.
It's still our station.
Forever.
Oh, we'll be back.
Hey, this is Dave Poston. Be sure to listen to WBOK 12:30 a.m. every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday evening at 5 p.m., bringing you the best Southern Soul barroom music with the Southern Soul Weekend Party Mix, hosted by me, of course. I'll be playing your favorite Southern Soul music by artists from all over the South, right here on WBOK 12:30 a.m. or online at WBOK1230.com. The station you listen to longer. Listen to longer. Listen to longer.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at what's making headlines. Today, America will choose its next president. Here in Louisiana, the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you need to check your polling location, visit govote.com. That's GEAUXVOTE.com. Secretary of State Nancy Landry says Louisiana ranks in the top 10 for election integrity, meaning you can trust your vote will count as intended. And a reminder to anyone who needs a ride to the polls, they can hop on a bus, ferry, or streetcar today free of charge. The RTA is offering free rides on Election Day, so there are no hurdles to making your voice heard. And don't worry, you will not need an RTA pass or proof of voter registration to get on. Then fallout continues after the firing of Saints head coach Dennis Allen. You'll remember Allen was promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach in February of 2022 after Sean Payton left. Allen was then fired following a painful 7th straight loss to the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi will now try to turn the franchise around, taking the reins as interim head coach. The Black and Gold play their rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, inside the Superdome this Sunday. And that's a check of today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day, and don't forget to vote.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Greetings, WBOK family. This is Jason Clark, host of United Way and You. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 12 p.m. in when we'll be speaking with Melanie Richardson, co-founder and executive director of Training Grounds, a United Way funded partner. The topic will be the We Play, We Connect Family Resource Hub. Please tune in if you're able. Until then, we only have one life to live, so live united.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
Minutes past the top of the hour. Dr. Wyatt, OT, the early bird, Nyron on the box. And our conversations with our congressman, our councilman.
Speaking.
With our congressman on
That's
Thursday.
on Thursday.
Congratulations to Congressman Troy Carter and our congressman. I was a little concerned, man, when I saw that below 50 and hovering. But then when New Orleans came in, New Orleans, I put him over the top. I wanted him to get that 60%. When he went around 60%, I was real frustrated. So that number really, really made a difference. And congratulations to one of our biggest contributors, especially here at the station, is Congressman Troy Carter. But when you talk about the council, our budget chairman, someone who puts the numbers together when budget process now, budget to be adopted by December the 1st. Councilman Joe Giarrusso, welcome back to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
How you doing, man?
You know, it was a long night last night.
Yeah.
Very long night.
I actually stayed up until he finished speaking. And if I didn't have to come here, I would have, because I wanted to hear everything and everybody who had something to say.
Yes.
You know, I wanted to hear enough of what they were saying, how their messages would change with their code switch. But now that he's won, would it be? And I heard some of that. I heard some people with a little different tone of tune, and I understand that. But yeah. So I was up. I was up until after his speech. Probably went to bed about 2:00.
Yeah, I think probably for me it was about 11:15, and you can just see.
You went to bed. Yeah,
I did. Well, the optimism was going away.
Yes.
And
because it kept shrinking.
Well, it
was shrinking when he got Pennsylvania and then Georgia. It was like, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep.
And candidly, everybody who's done politics long enough knows when you throw the towel in, there just weren't enough votes left.
Yes.
And the way things were trending in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, you just knew.
Yeah, I wanted to hear the commentary. I wanted to hear what people would say. Anything surprising to you? Look, and like we tell people, what we optimistic about what we want is one thing.
Yes.
The reality is something else. How about for you, Council?
I don't think there's anything surprising for me, but the one thing I feel like is people don't understand. People vote how they feel. People vote how they feel. Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you're not safe and you feel like you're worse off than you were, Trump filled that space. He did. And that's one lesson I think we all have to learn about how we deal with that going forward.
Look, you've been in politics a while, and Dr. Wyatt, please jump in. But you've been in politics a while with your family. You've been successful in the elections. Dr. Wyatt and I, we like to sit down and we not only analyze political people, we analyze the people who consult the political people. And for the longest in our conversations, we've noticed that they're not getting it right either. The Iowa poll consistently has been an indicator, like Calcasieu Parish is here in Louisiana. Were you surprised that, especially in the last few elections, campaign prognosticators, posters, and have gotten it so wrong?
I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not anymore. Look, I think a couple things. One is Trump polls worse than he does, and so when you, in my view,
but it was worse this time.
It was, and when you see, in my view, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all those swing states that were well within the margin of error and so close, then the thinking is that's likely to go to him. I mean, that's what I think.
I think that too, when we're talking about people vote how they feel, I also think a lot of this, like I said yesterday, is this idea of being the majority. Is to not be the majority is scary for certain demographics of people, right?
Yeah.
And so this idea of harping on black men as if black men have not always shown up on election day, period. They show up. All of that was a smokescreen to protect white women because they knew what they were pressuring white women to do. And that is what happened here. Nobody's caring. Why is that not the topic of discussion? Because leading into the election, they were harping on black men and their love for black women, and they don't want to see a woman become president. But you allow white women to fly under the radar. And then you're putting out all of these commercials about their choice, their body, their choice, and all of these things.
And their choice was
And
Trump.
we saw what their choice was.
Suburban women, rural
Absolutely.
women, educated white women overwhelmingly that they thought would break on the abortion issue. And the first female president, they did the same thing to Kamala they did to Hillary.
Yeah. Well, abortion did well on the ballot in the states, but doesn't necessarily translate for people.
Yeah.
And so it's again, to your point about losing power, I think that's very tough. Take the topic that was to me discussed a lot last night, poor young white men.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you looked at the map, first of all, I'm glad when you looked at the map, they showed up in places in this country
they came out
where they had been absent.
Right.
But they voted.
They did. And in some of the college towns.
Oh, absolutely.
Trump did better too with white men. So it's both. So we talk about women. Right. I think we gotta look at white men too as being somebody. And look, I think you're right. I think there's something, I don't understand it, but there's something scary for a lot of people about you don't look like
leveling
me,
the playing field.
or leveling the playing field, or I don't know, I'm not a part of a community, I don't understand, and I think they get that's part of the fear too.
Yeah,
part of the fear. And so if you don't look like me, if I don't understand where you are, if I'm not the one I feel like I can have comfort with you, then it's hard for me to feel like we're on the same playing field.
But the reality is the policy is going to show the poor white man that he is not even in the same conversation as a Jeff Bezos, right? It's going to show. So when you came out your house to vote for him, did you consider that the policies that he's trying to enact also make you a black woman or a black man in terms of policy? Because they're not looking at your whiteness, they're looking at your poorness. That is what qualifies you as a marginalized person in this conversation.
Well, I want to stay there because that's it is obvious that, especially with Trump in this movement. First of all, remember I said that we thought that maybe his mission was, even if he didn't win, was to blow up the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like it was to remake and reconfigure the Republican Party. The major irony now is that the Republican Party is the party of working class people, people in rural communities, people who are locked out of the economy, right? That was not always the case. They thought that, especially when you talk about white working class people, the Republican Party was the party of the elites. Talk about that shift and that dynamic that was real clear in this election.
I thought one of the points I heard a pundit make that was very interesting is the Democratic Party is focused on unions, and that union
and celebrities.
And yes, but the point they made with the unions is the Democrats have said unions are all working class people, and unions have been eroded. They have been. They're not as strong as they used to be, and not everybody who's poor is in a union, or I shouldn't say poor. People who are solidly working class, middle class people, not everybody's in a union. So you are losing out on not talking to people and reaching voters. Look, this is the bottom line in all of this is part of politics is addition by addition. And I think what Trump wisely, in my view, did to get elected is he played on people's fears and he put together these strange coalitions. Put together coalitions of disaffected white men, white women, probably wealthier, who are afraid about their pocketbook
black men
issues.
and Hispanic men.
And that's where I'm headed next. And exactly right. And you put all of that together and put them over the top. And when you look at those counties in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, that Biden carried by big margins.
Bucks County and Erie. That was once they showed that, they historically had determined which way the state of Pennsylvania would go, right? Bucks was trending his way in terms of enough votes so that he could win the state. And then Erie, once Erie flipped,
right.
I don't know why they were waiting so long to call Pennsylvania.
And I look, I agree with you. On the national level, I never understand sometimes why people don't understand certain policies, don't work out well for them, and vote against their own interest. I don't understand it, but it's something that happens all of the time. And I think people get swept up into the noise of this is going to be better for me. This person's promising something better for me when frequently that's just not
I
the
just
case.
want to know what is the better that they think he's promising for them, because to have someone go into a booth and vote for a person who doesn't even want them to be a part of the country, like he doesn't want you here, and you're pushing a button for him, tells me that you are absolutely either misinformed about what he's saying, or you are ignorant to what he's saying, or you just don't care because you're here and you feel like if you're here, that's enough. But I don't know. I'm absolutely not shocked that this country is a bloody. Because when I look at the map, that's what it looks like. It's a bloody country, and we know that that's how it was founded, on the blood of folk who they don't see as human beings. And so I'm just not shocked at all. I just don't want people to perpetrate a fraud in my face. Like, if that's what you want for yourself, say it with your whole chest, and don't pretend to be an ally to me or folk who look like me. That's all I'm saying.
That makes perfect sense to me. And look, I think to your point again about people getting scared, the country's changing, right? Dynamics are changing. I mean, you're seeing more interfaith marriages, more interracial marriages. You're seeing change, and for a lot of people, that's scary. And, and I'm not defending. Let me be very clear. I'm not defending it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it is. I also agree with you that if you're going to vote for somebody, I've never gone to a voting booth and said, I'm secretly voting for, this is who my candidate is.
But here's the thing, Jenny and Clarence are also an interracial couple, and we see the stuff that she espouses from her mouth. It doesn't value his humanity or people who look like him, because he also doesn't see himself as being our kind of black, right? So when you're talking about interracial marriages, that doesn't mean that your partner is doing things that uplifts your demographic of people as a whole. All Jenny cares about is the Clarence inside of her house, because they're wealthy enough for these things not to affect him in a way that affects OT and I.
We're talking
right?
to Councilmember Georgia Russo, chairman of the city's budget, also District A.
This is scary.
Council member. The more things change, sometimes the more they stay the same. Maybe get a little worse, but we gonna be, as Kendrick Lamar said, we gonna be all right, because we got a job and a mission to do, and sometimes when there's a clear and present danger, then that gives you an opportunity to come together to protect especially the best interests of our children and our families. And if we're not looking at it like that, then all you're doing is sitting on the sideline. So this year's budget, right? Last year you were here. We talked about it leading up to
we did
leading up to final adoption. We're back there now. What was different this year? What can we expect? And what do you hope to accomplish with the 2025 budget?
The biggest thing I thought was different, and you and I talked about it, is the number of departments said, I need more. And it's real, but let me say this. I know that doesn't sound bold, but it is. And for departments to come to chambers and say, not put aside outside agencies, I mean departments, to say, I don't have this to be successful and this is what I need, or to pull it out of them, right? Remember with safety and permits?
Yeah.
And I mean, a good example, somebody who's trying to do the right thing by their boss, but at the same time, making sure that things are functioning. I tell people all the time, the budget, and I think you would agree with this, 85 to 90% of it is sort of, there's not worth arguing about, right? It's done. The real negotiations begin today. And so I think for your listeners, what I do is I start with talking to all the council members probably about a month before. What are your priorities? What are the things that we need to incorporate? Tell me, I think I would always say is tell me your luxury items, your wants, and your needs. And so that way we can try and figure out what those are. Hopefully a lot of times those overlap, and sometimes in districts they just don't. The biggest thing for me is I think there are a few departments, Department of Public Works, property management, safety and permits, where there just aren't enough people. And we've got to put more focus on getting more people because as Councilmember Green will always proselytize, those are good jobs, and we need people filling them. And I can't get potholes fixed or permits processed or HVAC taken care of at NORD facilities if we don't have enough people doing it.
Now with 45, we'll go to break about 44. What's different when you talk about, especially, we were heavily relying on ARPA funds in the past. Of course, those things, what they say, trouble don't last always, ARPA money don't last always. How does the budget different there? Because if we don't have those ARPA funds moving forward, it's going to be a different kind of revenue stream.
It's going to be a different revenue stream. I think there's a couple things. First is, it was interesting. We had a revenue estimating conference maybe in September. Mm-hmm. The mayor, the CEO, and I were all disagreeing with the economist who has an extraordinarily conservative view of what 2025 will look like. And we look at it as, with Taylor Swift being here, Super Bowl, right, we think we're going to be doing better. The hope is that...
And for people, historically, you realize those revenues in the first quarter. They may not show up at the end of your budget,
right,
but they will show up in first quarter.
That's right. And so what the hope is, ARPA was something that we needed because the economy was bad. The economy's back on track and growing the way that it ought to be, encouraging people here, encouraging economic development, encouraging building in districts. I mean, that's, again, something that's a sore spot for me is I'm happy for the work downtown, but I want to make sure roads get fixed in Pontchartrain Park, Gentilly, Central City, Holly Grove. All of that matters to me a lot too. So I think with ARPA, you have a host of things that are one-time money that are going to come to an end that is going to be fixed or in the process of being fixed. The real question is some of the programming that we gave money for, how much of that continues, what is the return on impact on those things, and what do those look like? Because I will continue to argue that as we've seen this drop in crime, that the police are one part of the equation, but the money the council and the city, to be fair to the mayor, the city, invested in front-end programming.
The Office of Family Services, a lot of specialty programs, no doubt about it, targeting nonprofits who are on the ground doing work who historically have not gotten rounds of municipal funding. All of those things have made a difference. And I think it's extremely important we look at that moving forward because we're consistently on this roller coaster, right? We can always predict when crime gets real bad, everybody's going to put pressure for it to go back down. But what are we doing? How are we analyzing it? What are we investing in so that this is sustainable level?
Yeah, listen, I'm always intrigued by the budget, and because I want to see what my city prioritizes in terms of fixing. But when we talk about this impending Super Bowl and Taylor Swift and all of these things, like, is there a real investment in making certain that we are looking at these things in the long term for the residents here, the natives here? Like, can I count on my street looking like it should even without a Super Bowl or a Taylor Swift visit?
The answer is the city should be doing that. I mean, that's just the bottom line. The city should be doing that. I will say this. I said this last time. I'll say it again this time. The city is in as good an economic position as it's ever been in. It's got strong reserves, which it typically doesn't have. Here's the last piece. This is in the weeds now, but since you're asking me to say it, is our bonding capacity increases exponentially over the next several years to a decade. Now, is it enough to fix every street in the city of New Orleans or every pipe? No. Is it enough to give it a major shot in the arm and make sure that we can take our money, state money, federal money, and supercharge it and do things? Yes. But I also think that requires the right amount of planning and being candid with people too about this is what it's going to take, this is how long it's going to take, this is what it's going to do. I also say this, there's got to be accountability on that side too, right? We can't have projects that languish for 4, 5, 6 years.
We got on a break. When we come back, you talked about the city's reserves. Is being a student of 16 budgets, I think, and watching some of the budget masters and greats deal with it, from your grandfather to Jim and others, that reserve fund is larger than it's ever been in comparison to what the budget is. Let's talk about that and its impact and how our budget chairman, Councilman from District 8, Joe Giarrusso, that in conversations with our council, Dr. Wyatt?
Listen, this is WBOK 1230 AM, where New Orleans is always talking about
whose station?
Our station.
It's still our station. We'll be back.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today will be mostly sunny and warm. We have chances for scattered showers, but it looks like it'll be less than Tuesday. Today's highs rise to the mid to upper 80s. Still watching Hurricane Rafael as it moves closer to the Gulf of Mexico. We could see impacts by the weekend, but still very undetermined. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that as we do get closer. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation, hosted by Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams. Education Elevation will highlight the achievements, innovations, and contributions of scholars, educators, schools, and the district. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. for engaging conversations and updates as we strengthen connections and support the needs of our scholars. Mark your calendars for every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Experience the heartbeat of New Orleans at the 2024 Treme Creole Gumbo Festival. Join us on November 9th and 10th as we indulge in an array of gumbo offerings crafted by local chefs, each bringing their unique touch to this classic dish. Live performances featuring the Soul Rebels, Brassaholics, Tanya Boyd Cannon, Charmaine Neville Band, and many, many more. Visit us at www.TremeGumboFestival.com for more information.
It's Gerald McBride here, letting you know how Chevrolet is supporting the next generation of black professionals. For the 8th summer in a row, Chevrolet is teaming up with the National Newspaper Publishers Association to power the futures of 10 multi-talented, historical black college and university students with the Discover the Unexpected Fellowship. Together, these stellar fellows will drive their legacy, owning their story in the Chevrolet tracks. Visit nnpa.org/ChevyDTU to learn more.
Hello, WBOK listening audience. This is Pastor Robert Tanner of the Community Church of River Ridge, Louisiana, inviting you to tune in to our Sunday morning broadcast at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning right here on WBOK 1230 AM. That's Community Church with Pastor Robert Tanner every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WBOK 1230.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Well, I can't wait until we got that
WBOK
Bravo,
Uncut.
VH1 WBOK Uncut, Little Black Radio Station on cable TV. Man, Lord, them off-air conversations. It's conversations with our councilman, and of course, Councilmember Joe Giarrusso has been one of our contributors for quite some time. Councilman, first of all, thank you for your relationship with Equity Media and for what Dr. Wyatt and I do here with the Good Morning Show, we always say this is a talk show, and on a talk show, what we do?
We talk.
We talk, right? You don't always have to agree with us. You don't always have to side with us, but you can use that information any way you see fit. We talked about the reserve fund balance going forward. Over $100 million in reserve. That's the largest I've ever known. Talk about application and use in your sense going into this final process for the 2025 budget.
It's higher than I've ever seen it. I mean, as much as I can remember. And look, I always have this tension. Let's start here. The administration is really fiercely protecting that money. I mean, really, really protecting that
they're
money.
hoarding the cash.
Yes. And what they're saying is we the city may have bond issues or we can't do certain things financially unless there's X amount that's there. Well, I think the question you and I've asked frequently is, well, what is that right number? What is it? Just tell us what the right number is, and let's hold the line at that number.
Because we've had really good bond ratings with a whole lot less cash.
That's what I've asked too. Agreed. And if you know you have problems, then let's try and solve those problems with the money that you have. And listen, we're not a corporation. I'm not here to pay dividends to my shareholders, right?
That's a good way to look at it. I'm going to really walk down that road with my little mind. That's a good way to look at it.
Right? I mean, I'm here to get stuff fixed. And hoarding, and I hate to use that word, but hoarding cash doesn't do that.
Especially when you need it in the community.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. And look, we've seen some really great things going back to ARPA. Look how much blight got knocked down when we invested $10 million in taking down blight. Look at what's happened with code enforcement now becoming a single department instead of being spread out in so many different places. Power station. Things that are happening because we've invested in community in trying to do those things. And so I want the city to be financially healthy. I don't want us to go back to the brink. But at the same time, I think we have to invest in money. Now, here's the last part. You start telling people there's money sitting there, then everybody you know where I'm headed.
I was in the meeting.
Yeah, everybody thinks that's their money. And so you also, I think we have to hold the line and say, we're gonna do the right thing and hit a sweet spot, and we're gonna tuck some of this money away. But then here are the other portions that we feel free and clear to spend on important needs.
But I think as a layperson, right, who's a political novice, in my opinion, that's who I am. That's who most people are. We don't really understand the ins and outs of all of this. Because from my purview, if the basic things worked well for us, we probably wouldn't know or even pay attention to all of the, if my streets were well, right? If there was, right, if there were, if my area is in a food desert, if there's well-lit roads when I'm driving down, like those kinds of things are the things that regular folk are looking for in terms of the viability of their community. I should never have to go home and I can't see on my street, or I'm going down a road that's going to do more damage to my car than I could afford to fix, or I need food and I have to go to a whole nother parish to get the food. It's just those basic access to those basic things that would go a long way to say my city cares about me as a person who lives here and pay my taxes here. And I shouldn't be able to tell what parts of the community are cared for more than others. And we can tell. You could take St. Claude, for instance. You can tell the parts of St. Claude where people who are struggling, robbing Peter to pay Paul, where they coexist. And then you can drive down a little bit further and you can see where people understand that their tax dollars are at work. So for me, that's all we actually want. Just give us a city where we don't have to fight for basic access to basic necessities, and we're paying taxes to beg for those things as well.
You're right, but I think it requires both.
Yes.
You can't, as I say all the time, you can't starve a department and expect it to be healthy.
Right.
And maybe the best analogy I always use with this is being on a diet. Right? For any department, you can't starve them and expect them to give you the quality that residents deserve. You can't make them too fat either, because then what happens is they don't know how to spend cash. At the same time, I worry that a lot of times we'll throw money at this and that will solve the problem. That doesn't always work either. You got to have execution on a lot of the problems too. And so, like, it shouldn't take us 400 days to fill a pothole.
Should not.
It should not. We should not. Sweet spot, hopefully for y'all. We need to pay our vendors on time. I mean, the fact that you had a vendor of the city who was in arrear $6 to $8 million is unconscionable. But then what it tells me is that person can survive it, But what about
the small?
You knew where I was headed.
Yeah, absolutely.
You knew where I was headed.
Because I can't even pay my folk who are doing the work for me. That could collapse somebody's entire business.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, Councilman, you're going to be with us till 8:20, or what's your time?
Yeah, I can do 8:20.
Yeah, because we first of all, great conversation. We really want to get into. I really want to talk about what happens after Mardi Gras, after Taylor Swift, after the Super Bowl. I really want you to explain to folk, right, that major events, that funding, and break it down. People think we get all that money. We really don't. Now, it's going to help us in terms of our budget, especially coming out of COVID, post-ARPA funds. But we still don't get the lion's share of what we produce here in Orleans Parish, right?
That's exactly right. Well, look, I mean, the state takes
fair share.
The state takes a lot of that money, and I think whether it's Mayor Cantrell or previous administrations, they've been talking for that since I was a little boy.
I was part of with Jim Singleton and Mark Morial and Bob Tucker getting kicked out the governor's mansion over casino support services. The governor said, "Well, y'all might as well leave."
I mean,
so who determines how the pie is split up?
The state. The state.
And how can that be changed?
The state. But here's what I would argue. This is what I tell my residents, because look, at various times when fee issues have popped up and fair share, and when it comes to splits from the French Quarter, the hotels, the Superdome, I say this: you're a legislator and pick a place, Abbeville, Louisiana. Are you going to say I'm going to impose more taxes on my residents, or I can take money from New Orleans, and that's mine?
I can build the Abbeville Convention Center, even if nobody comes to the convention.
I keep on saying they want they want all of the rhythm, but they don't want any of our blues, because that's exactly what it seems like to me. That's what it is.
No, you're right.
You want our money, but then you degrade our people, you degrade our culture, you degrade our existence, but you come to us with your hand out and we're feeding everybody, and all of the harsher policies are directed directly at our community, at our children, at our community. Like, it's just weird to me. It's weird to me. Like, when I go to the state level and I'm talking about education, those men and women have no idea what schools look like here, but they're making a determination about what our schools look like here, and you don't even know what you're making a determination for, because that same thing you're fighting for to come here, you're pushing back against it in your community. That ought to tell you something. You don't want them, but you want us to have them. Well, make it make sense.
We're going to break, and when we come back, right, more with Budget Chairman, District 8 Council Member Joe Giarrusso. The 2025 budget has got to be adopted December 31st. We'll talk a little more about the rules, fund balance. I want you to get into the fact that, I don't want to say rosy, but the indicators are looking pretty good economically, right? And how do we manage that? What are going to be some of your priorities, right? We talked about, but let's get into some specifics with our Budget Chairman, WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about, our station.
Yeah, you're doing right, it's our station. We'll be back, guys.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Our election coverage continues with the size of the Baltimore City Council remaining as it is. Baltimore voters in Maryland rejected ballot question H that would have reduced the size of the council from 14 seats to 8. There's still no projected winner in the race for Pennsylvania's U.S. Senate seat. NBC News reports Republican challenger Dave McCormick is leading incumbent Democrat Bob Casey by about 1%, with 95% of the ballots counted. Representative Bill Foster is keeping his seat for the 11th U.S. Congressional District of Illinois. Foster beat challenger Jerry Evans of Warrenville. And Congressman John James has won re-election in Michigan's 10th Congressional District. James faced Democratic challenger Carl Marlinga in a rematch of the 2022 race. He also won. James, who was black, had a 52 to 44% lead, with 92% of the votes counted as of 4 a.m. today. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
New Schools for New Orleans, along with All-State Sugar Bowl and Entergy New Orleans, would like to send a huge congratulations to our class of 2024 New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Award honorees. This year, we had 90 Teachers of the Year from each public school in New Orleans. Each of them was recognized at our annual gala, where we had over 350 attendees. We're excited to also share that each honoree is receiving a $1,000 classroom grant. Thank you for everything you do, teachers.
Good morning.
Wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. It is the top of the hour. And Nyron, please, if you can, I don't know if you reached out to him, but, Sterling Henry, so if he's available, former White House executive, he helped do the prep, right, to prepare for what we ultimately got yesterday. But this is the day after.
Yeah,
right?
the November 6th. The November 6th.
Conversations with our councilman, budget chairman, District A council member from a political family, iconic New Orleans family. Economic projections, man. Look, Taylor Swift was 2.5 Super Bowls. We got the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. The projections for Mardi Gras. When you talk to tourists, we're not back to pre-COVID numbers, but we're heading in the right direction.
Everything looks good, and convention season looks like it's going to be better too.
Mm-hmm.
So you take all of those things. Taylor Swift, to your point, was in September or October. My daughter would get mad at me if I got that wrong. October, but we're not going to really realize that money till the end of this year, which means it really will get spent either at the very end of this year or really the beginning of next year. And then you have the Super Bowl, you have Mardi Gras, you have more people coming, you have more people traveling again. I think didn't MSY report that Taylor Swift traffic was the heaviest it's seen in such a long time.
Hotel bookings in Mandeville and sold out Mandeville, Covington, and surrounding areas. The region participated.
The statistics I saw afterwards really blew my mind about how many people came outside of the New Orleans metropolitan area. You have people from Qatar coming to watch.
Because you're not a Swiftie. Your daughter it didn't surprise her. You're not a Swiftie.
Wait. You're a Swiftie?
Not
He's
really.
been converted. He took too long to answer.
My daughter had a really good time at the concert. Okay, she was happy. When your daughter's happy, daddy's happy. But look, I think we're headed back in the right direction. Remember too, with COVID, the administration said it's going to take a minute, and we think by 2024, 2025, we'll be headed right back on the right track. We're headed in that direction. So that is the good outlook. But I think back to Dr. Wyatt's point, you can have money, but you got to have execution on those things, and you got to have the people.
I want to have this conversation with you because I can, right? And I think it's important. Politics. People pick their favorites, who they like. People will, the news media will shape outlooks and shape a perception of political folk. But I'll go back to whether you like or didn't like the Nagin administration. When you look at their budgets, right, $500 million with 503,000 people for Katrina, they were mostly fiscally responsible. The amount of citizens, the budget that they manage, and then post that, we watched the budget inflate by a couple $100 million with 135,000 fewer people. Your relationship, and it's important for a budget chairman to have a relationship with the administration, especially the CAO. Talk about that relationship, where it was, how it's matured, and the professionalism there that's required for you, especially as our leader in the budget, to get it right.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because in this day of feeling disjointed and where things are, I'm meeting with the CAO and the CFO at 11 o'clock today. And it's really one of the first meetings I want to set right after we're through the whole budget. And look, all these relationships take time. Even in government, it takes time to develop relationships with people. And look, Gilbert is not from New Orleans, so I can't play the where'd you go to high school? Your people know my people.
Yeah.
As we just found out on the break.
I cannot believe
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
So look, you have to build that up. Here's the other thing too. It takes time to build trust. And so when I've told the administration, this is something that's important to Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Green, Councilmember King, or we're going to hold a line, or sometimes this is a priority for you. I'm going to do my damnedest to make sure I do my part to help out as well. That's important too. And so I think it's about having that mutual trust with each other, and that's only built when you have occasion after occasion.
And that's one part of it. And Dr. White, just jump in because I'm just trying to explain and kind of go back in terms of the process. The one thing the other budget chairman have did, once you meet with the administration, establish some respect, understand how they want to budget, their philosophy around budgeting, then the next thing you've had to do, and what I tell people, one of the strengths for me and you is our meetings that aren't part of the public process, but also part of building on what we did publicly. They talk about what ultimately happens. Talk about those individual meetings with council members, right? So first of all, it's not a fire sale on funds that's not there, but the realities of what the people want in those districts to make sure that we can collectively at least fulfill them with the money that's available.
Well, it's incredibly important to me because the one thing I know is what I don't know. And that while I can listen during meetings and hear things, sometimes you will say to me, hey, Joe, I know you said A and B, but really this is where people are on fire at this moment. And I need you to pay attention to this. And so that's, to me, the value in all of it is, look, and sometimes you have members who have more philosophical concerns about a budget or things that they want to see, council member.
Sometimes you got members who let them have it.
Yeah. And then there's other people who, well, if we added up everything that's on your list, I'm at $60 million right now, and I feel like I'm your grumpy dad who's like, well, how are you going to pay for it? And what do you want to cut in order to get to that spot?
Do you feel any pressure from that? Because you have tried to say, hey, hold on a second. Well, I'm not saying there's not a need, but this is what we have.
Yeah, of course. The answer is yes. Because, look, we have internal, because, look, part of my job, I feel like, is to make my members look good, right? I want you to be able to go back to your communities and say, these are the things that we talked about. And look, the value in sort of doing these budget meetings coming up, right, is to be able to say, this is what you've told us is a priority. This is what we think we have. And then these are the things that, are we missing something major that we don't know? I don't think we're missing major things, but what are they? And so and then you have advocacy groups that want money for pick whatever they're advocating on behalf of. You have other people who have wants. So it's how do you balance all of those things
And
together?
is there checks and balances to make certain that the money that, however you allocate it, is actually doing the thing that you allocated it for?
Well, look, that's a great question. I think Councilmember Thomas will say this. I think we've done a pretty good job with that in the past year, particularly because we've had the ARPA money and the other things where we've had almost these quarterly meetings. But at the same time, we don't know everything that goes on in some of the departments. We just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so frequently we get to the budget meeting where fill in the blank department comes in front of us, and sometimes it's, oh, we didn't realize you were doing all these things. And then sometimes it's
what are you doing?
What are you doing? what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but remember we had, a position where somebody was supposed to be liaising with the council.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't there.
Probably one of the funniest I've seen Oliver, in chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know who it was. Now they've introduced themselves since, and we're developing the relationship. But man, that was an eye opener.
That's a great question.
Because I want to know that, right?
Because it's budgeted.
It's a line item, but how do we know that the monies that were allocated for this line item, that we can actually see it in action?
He knows I call it ghost budgeting, but we deal with it. But you're absolutely right.
So, and then to further my point, how or is there a metric that actually sees to it that the monies go to the culture of this city? I believe that the culture is the heartbeat of this community. Like, is there funding or dollars allocated for the culture of New Orleans to make certain that wheel continues to turn and people can actually make a living here with so much they do on behalf of the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably two different ways to look at that. One
Mhm.
is the mayor's cultural fund itself, which allocates to different groups, and I mean, you look at the list, it's expansive. And then we have a lot of conversations about participation and DBE participation. And I think in this past meeting we were more favorably impressed with what we're hearing, but at the same time, I'll say I ask the question all the time. All right, what do we do for somebody who's a fledgling new business and they have maybe revenue up to, pick a number, $500,000, and then we get them to $500,000 plus? All right, great. How do we move them to $500,000 to $1 million? So how do we keep on pushing and getting those things? And look, sometimes you can drown in data, right? Like, here's a statistic, blah, 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 blah. And look, one of the points I'm going to make in the budget hearings or the budget meetings that we're getting ready to do is sometimes on paper something looks good, but you dig behind it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'll give you like one example. I think the net gain to safety and permits is something like 25, 29 employees. But really, that's just transferring people from one department to another, and it's not increasing the maintenance inspectors, the electrical inspectors, the building inspector. Well, that doesn't help you the way that it needs to. But on paper, it looks good. So I think one is, what is the way that we take that data, we use it, and then the other way is, how do you peel behind it to really try and get to what you're asking.
And then my other question would be this, because I'm always looking at how contracts are awarded here. In a historically black city, we have most contractors who are not black, right, or black-led businesses being contracted. How is it that when we have these major events such as Essence, that's supposed to be a historically black event, but most of the people behind the scenes getting paid for the work don't look like what the organization says it's about? Or even with Super Bowl coming up, how is it that we can't even get in the door in terms of contracting with the Super Bowl in our city? I don't understand that. And I'm seeing the list of people, and I'm hearing from a lot of folk who are saying, where are the black vendors? Where are the black contractors? How are these contracts being awarded? Is there a bidding process for it? How do we get in the door when there's real money to be made on the table? Because we're tired of the crumbs now. We hungry.
Yeah.
And we really want to eat like everybody else. So how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, there's an open solicitation process. Everybody's supposed to be able to participate in it and get through it. I hear it, but here's my but.
Okay, because Councilman, it started to sound like one app for a second. It's open enrollment, and you can go to a school, but then you find your way into the failing school. I'm trying to figure this out.
But here comes the but.
Mm-hmm.
Processes are easier for people who know how to navigate them and know how to make them work and are familiar with them. And that's for anything. I mean, take criminal justice system, take procurement,
education is key.
Mm-hmm. All of it. I mean, it just when you have people who can help you navigate all of those things. So that's actually one of the conversations we've been having. And one of the things the administration really has some good plans about is how to make that much easier. And so how do you educate people?
Yes.
How do you make it easier for them? How do you make it more accessible?
Yes.
To me is always the important part.
Well, that's a good question. One of the ways it worked, even though the NFL and major events have a clean zone, right? They require, and the NFL is one of the most difficult. As wonderful as the Super Bowl is, when they come to your town, they tell you what you're going to do with your police department. They tell you what you're going to do in terms of available hotels. They tell you what you're going to do in terms of areas that they're going to use and take for their events. But the late Peter Dangerfield, and as a matter of fact, I had this conversation with Thelma French last night. They did a study on abject poverty in the city, which showed pockets of the community that were unaffected, even when crime was down, and it was supposedly the good old days. There were historical communities that were never touched economically or politically. Well, when Peter Dangerfield did that study, back negotiating with the NFL, it was used to negotiate opportunity within the clean zone. Young African-American youth entrepreneurs were actually able to participate around the Dome and around Poydras. I don't know what happened to that and why that leveraging went away, but at some point, political leadership and business leadership has to negotiate, say, look, NFL, I know you want it all your way, but this impacts our community. And hopefully at some point that type of negotiation and that type of compromise will happen at some point. Because the one thing the African American business community can guarantee, and Joe will tell you this, I like the data. The data doesn't lie. The data center says we're poor per capita, post $71 billion in FEMA funds post Katrina, post economic, post pre-COVID numbers where we were breaking tourism records. Our community is poorer in the last 6 or 7 years, and the numbers show that. So what do we have to be intentional about, whether it's major events or how we do business, to close the wealth gap?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's it. And look, here's the thing. It has to be, to use the word again, intentional, because if it's not, then it falls by the wayside. And again, people who have the ability to navigate will do it.
Rising tide doesn't lift all boats if you don't have a boat.
That's right.
And those are just facts. But at the same time, if I'm spinning my wheels just trying to survive, right? I'm not even thinking about a boat. I'm still trying to stand on my own 2 feet. And it gets harder and harder, even though there's more and more money supposedly and more resources here. But the folk who are native to this community, indigenous to this community, don't ever really see that in action, don't really even see the impact of all of this money and all of these resources that are available to the city of New Orleans.
Yeah, and I think, look, it's also part of the reasons why we've tried to be sensitive to that, because we, the council, can't solve all those problems, but it's one of the reasons we held the line so firm on not, for example, rolling the millages forward.
Right.
Now, that's $140 million to the city that the city can use for police, fire, all these other, but we didn't do it. Why? Because we felt like we were coming up economically and that we know people are hurting. And so we don't want to add to your cost burden and make things more expensive and harder for you because we know they're hard already.
Well, Dr. To Joe's credit, excuse me, Councilmember Giarruso's credit, we do take a look at some impact spending. I know for the success I've gotten in my district in targeting funds, even the challenges with the administration, we've targeted funds to critical areas. But at some point, you have to take a look at how do you offset, right? Especially those economic, especially the disparaging numbers that we're getting.
Yeah.
There was a period of growth for the African American middle class and working class from the mid '90s to early 2000s. What happened to that period of growth is something that I'm hoping we take a look at. The business community were active participants. I will say this: in the 3 years that I've been back on the city council, they have not had a strategy meeting with public officials and business council like they used to have with Eric Johnson, your grandfather, Jim Singleton. They would go meet at the puncher train and hash out over issues. So you have every sector working in their own lane, and there isn't a collective at attacking and dealing with the issues that are so prevalent and prevailing economically.
Because people who don't understand the talk that y'all are having, all they care about is how does this affect me? And right now I don't feel like it's impacting me in the way that
and
makes
in a different way the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all I'm saying. Like the regular, I feel like in these conversations, I always represent like the regular lay person. You know, I just want to know that my city and my government is working to have a positive impact on my daily quality of living. And I don't see it on my streets because they're raggedy. I don't see them in my schools because they're raggedy. You know what I'm saying? I can't see it on my street because it's dark. Like, it's just basic things that you can do to improve my everyday quality of living that I just don't see. And it feels like we're just not cared about.
I'll say it just slightly differently. People feel like they're paying more and they're getting less.
Absolutely. There we go.
Well, people have been listening. In the last 2 minutes, we got a caller. As always, good morning. God bless. Care from Gentilly. You're on with Councilmember Giarruso.
As always, man, thank y'all for having this conversation because no one else is. We keep on asking a question. We act like we don't understand how to be analytical and solve problems ourselves. We just elected a monster from the president based on his historical data, his background. Okay, look, if we don't realize now, we have to put, like Giarruso talked about, understanding processes. It's simple math. If you don't understand the fundamentals of math, you'll never be able to learn how to add and subtract. Look, when we want to learn how to do something, we have a responsibility to figure out how it works so we can work it. And if Clearly, nobody else is helping us make it work. We like to always talk about black excellence. Where is our black excellence helping us to talk about the fundamentals of understanding analytical processes and how we learn them? And nobody else can teach them, and nobody else is, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if there was. We have to learn. We have to learn to do it ourselves. And if we don't know this by now, with 400 years, and the current situation, I don't know if there's a medication for that.
Thank you, Kev. We appreciate it. Councilman, we got about a minute left. Talk about what's going to happen between now. I know we have the public meetings in different districts, but December 1st, budget adoption. What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, the biggest thing I hope to accomplish is to give more hope to the things Dr. Wyatt and the caller just said, which is, all right, how do we hire enough people? How do we put our resources in the places for the things that people care about? I mean, what to me is important about our job, put the national conversation aside for a second, we talked about that a lot, is how do we make sure the trash is picked up? How do I make sure the lights are changed? How do we make sure the potholes are fixed? How do we make sure street signs are where they need to be? That's the stuff that people care about. People want to know that government works, the city quality of life things are working for them. When you call quality of life, as we were talking about off the show, if there's dumping in a place, how is that going to be addressed in short order? And so eliminating the repetitive nature of having to make these things and how to get them solved faster is what we hope to do. And then here's the other thing. I always tell people this. The budget is not dipped in amber. We always have the ability to come back. And I think the other big point is to all this money we're looking at, I think we're going to have another examination in April or May.
Councilmember, as always, thank you. Any other parting comments you want to share with the public before we close out?
Hang in there. I know today's going to be a rough day for many people.
Yeah, but we're going to be all right. We're going to continue to do what we do, and we appreciate you being one of our guests and committing your time, because the information we share is important. As Dr. Wyatt said, we learn just sitting here sometimes. And for me, it's good to be part of a conversation where at least I have a little institutional knowledge and I can learn something. WBOK 1230 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Yeah, all day long.
All day long. Our station.
You know I'm right, it's our station. We'll be back, guys.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Your Power is On gospel music show is coming on at a new time. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 a.m. and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to all day long.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. The results are in. Donald Trump has been declared president-elect, defeating Kamala Harris in the race for the White House. Governor Jeff Landry posting on social media saying in part, quote, "The American people sent a resounding message that they want a government that puts America first. Congratulations to my friend." Then Louisiana voted to send several representatives back to Washington for another term. Congressman Steve Scalise, Mike Johnson, Troy Carter, and Clay Higgins all secured another term in office. Congresswoman Julia Letlow was also reelected. But right now, the balance of power in our nation's capital is still uncertain. While Republicans secured a majority in the U.S. Senate, several House seats are still up in the air, meaning who will control that chamber is unknown at this time. And here in New Orleans, in Orleans Parish, voters elected 2 school board members. In District 4, Katrina Griffin defeated incumbent Donaldo Batiste. And in District 2, Eric Jones was elected with 44% of the vote. You can visit WDSU.com to see a full breakdown of all election results. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
NOLA Public Schools' main round enrollment for kindergarten through 12th grade is now open. With 73 schools available through the NOLA Public Schools Common Application Process, or NCAP, finding the right school fit for your family is easier than ever. List up to 12 choices to maximize your chances and apply by January 24th. We're all in, and we hope you are too. Apply today at enrollnolaps.com. That's enrollnolaps.com.
Hi, it's Dr. Shepard with your Medical Minute. Let's discuss one harmful ingredient in many hair products, formaldehyde. This colorless gas is a known carcinogen found in hundreds of hair care products disproportionately used by Black women, such as Brazilian blowouts and keratin treatments. It increases the risk of cancers such as uterine, breast, ovarian, and of the upper respiratory tract. It's linked to allergic dermatitis, headaches, asthma, and nervous system disorders. The chemical has many names and derivatives, and even products that do not have formaldehyde may release it, such as methylene glycol or formalin. Risks are increased with long-term exposure. Lawsuits have been filed against prominent companies and manufacturers like L'Oreal, Revlon, Sally Beauty, Soft Sheen, and Avalon. In June, there were 8,170 hair straightener lawsuit filings. The FDA has been considering a ban on formaldehyde, but is consistently pushing back the timeline to reach a decision. You can call the FDA and support the ban or submit a public comment. For more information about safe beauty products, call me at 504-858-4696.
This has been a Medical Minute with Dr. Cassandra Shepard on WBOK 1230 AM.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back. Thank you, Councilman Giarrusso, for and all of the council members who come here to participate in our conversations with council, as well as our conversation with our congressman. Shout out to Cleo Fields. Shout out to everybody who won. I just hope that at some point your ideology gets to the point where the American people win, and not just some of us, but all of us. But shout out to Cleo Fields and our Congressman Carter. Man, I was so concerned when I saw those numbers hovering in the 50s and the low 40s, and then with most of the parishes accounted for. But then New Orleans came in heavy for our congressman, as we should have, and he got that 60. That was a number that I thought it was important for him to get, to not be vulnerable in the future, and not to have him be targeted.
Yeah. Well, for me, my focus, everybody knows, has always been on our school board races. And I'm going to say this with my entire chest. I stand by everything that I have said and that I'm about to say and what I will say going forward. We have to own the fact that they could buy and sell us for cheap, and they know it. There is no reason why we should have folk being put in races that affect children's very livelihoods in terms of education, because so goes education, so goes the trajectory of their lives. And we're playing with it by letting folk masquerade as representation for our children. I'm not shouting out everybody that won, because our children lost when it comes down to what we want for our schools. Dr. Jones is in a runoff that I did not see happening.
Yeah.
That I did not see happening.
Yeah.
But I guess organizations like UTNO and Step Up could be proud because that's their endorsed candidate.
Yeah.
But like we keep talking about change and moving forward, but we keep doing the same thing the same way. We are insane here in this city. We know who the power brokers are. We know what their intentions are for our children, and we still fall for the banana in the tailpipe. How do you unseat an incumbent with a person who has no educational background whatsoever in terms of wanting to fight for children or even volunteering in a school to even see what a school looks like? Do they even know the schools in the district? The hairdresser. Dr. Eric Jones is in a runoff with a beautician for an education seat. So something is diabolical about that. And then you have a 40-plus year veteran educator who's been unseated by somebody that went to school to be a nurse that isn't even practicing in the field she went to school for because she's busy masquerading and taking headshots and pictures trying to look the part. But see, reality is going to soon set in because when you sit in that seat, the reality of what you sold yourself out for is going to come to fruition. And that is the awful part about it is our children are losers when we play this game and we continue to do it every single time. We know who she is and we allow her to pull the strings and seat people and battle for seats that she has no interest in other than owning it and being a power broker for it. Because what is your purpose for being in that race? Katrina Chantel Griffin, what is your purpose? I want to understand. But you won the seat per the numbers. So now it's time for you to go to work and do the job. And you'll have to see people like me in the school board meetings and parents who want answers.
WBOK 1230.
I stand by everything I say. Then, now, and forevermore.
504-582-9422. Line number 1. Papa Batiste, you're on with OT, Dr. Wide. And the early bird with Myron on the box.
Come on, Save. Come on, Save.
Sava, Zava.
Yeah, all of that.
Toast to toe.
Oh, yeah. Konnichiwa.
Boop diddy bop diddy boop.
Man, we just elected somebody that says the women of the United States, like men with no character, sexual predators, liars. We set our daughters up to look for men that don't have nothing, no godly stuff about them. If just money, throw money at us. We just sold ourselves to Russia and to China. And the people that didn't come out and vote, you're going to get what you voted for. Nothing. The people that don't understand what's going to happen to them, if they didn't believe it now, and the brothers that say, yeah, Donald Trump's going to get his money, he's going to get his money. If you want to see that, you're going to get what you ask for. That's what my daddy always said to me. You do it, you're going to get what you ask for. And so these people ask for this to happen to our wonderful, beautiful country. And for our teachers, I feel sorry for you. My heart and prayers go out to you. I hope our children get the right people because the people that they have to look up to now, from looking at the people that we reelected here in our state,
appreciate you, Papa.
Are liars. They're unfaithful to God. They have their own God that they believe in, and there's no morals for them. They are violent. We have to watch out for our children now, because these other militia people may decide they want to take it upon themselves to come destroy concerts, reading events, and anything else, and they're going to be back.
Well, Papa Becky, let me say this, and I hear you and I feel for you, right?
I'm listening. I'm listening.
I'm not going to manifest, right? It's like, James, we love you, Mr. James. James was ready to put it on me and Dr. Wyatt this morning, right? But we ain't coming here down, and look.
And will not.
And we will not. We're going to continue to do what we do and plan and do the work. Dr. Wyatt and I were talking last night, right, about what happened in the school board issues. I'm talking about late last night, right? So, look. I'm not going to paint a doom and gloom picture because I'm not going to manifest that, right? What I'm going to say is now, and especially you know that being from one of the most successful musical families in this country, right? You know that no matter where you go playing, you got to perform at your best level. It's time for us to make sure we're performing at our highest and best level, and hopefully, right, come together with some unity of purpose around these issues. That's the call. That's what I get right now. We got to up our game.
It's no giving up, Oliver.
Ain't no giving up.
No retreat.
way.
No surrender.
No, it ain't in us. Hey, Papa Baptiste, we love you, man, and congratulations to your son Damon. I know he was being honored last week. I had a meeting across the street while he was being honored, so I couldn't come. But congratulations to you and your family.
Well, Oliver, you're talking to the father. We are the Three Musketeers, the only father and two sons that's in the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame that's been doing it over. My son's over 50 years. I've been doing it over 60 years.
Well, y'all are finally getting
we're all
y'all
in the
due.
Louisiana Music Hall of Fame together.
You're finally getting your due, but we always knew y'all
yourself.
were there. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Line number 2. Oh, Mr. Henry.
Hello, how you doing?
Sterling Henry,
How you doing?
You're up, right?
I'm up. It was a long night, but I'm up.
Well, the first thing, first of all, thank you for being available, man, and on calls, on speed dial for us. I guess just give us your take. What happened? How do we begin to take a look at it? As someone who's worked, how many elections you said you worked? 40?
No, it was my 30th. This was my 30th campaign.
And most of them national elections.
Right,
give us your take.
Right.
What happened? Why it happened?
Well, it goes back to the old saying that politics is one of the few things in life that you can do everything perfectly and still lose. And I don't think anybody did anything necessarily wrong. You run out your program to the best of your ability. You hit every chord that you had, but you still don't know what people are going to do once they go into that polling booth. It's a very private decision. So whatever you can do, and you can do it perfectly, you can do it absolutely perfect, and you can still lose. And this is the shining example of that. She ran a very good race. The vice president ran a very good race. She got a lot of enthusiasm. She got a lot of everything that she needed to have. She had more money than any other candidate has probably ever had in a short period of time. But the bottom line is that despite everything, the other guy got a lot more votes than he did.
But I want you to stop there because I want you to deal with an issue, and I think it's important. And Dr. White and I caught it right off. I don't think a lot of people caught it, right? When they showed that map of the United States, right? And they showed areas where we didn't even know people lived. As Dr. White says, we've never seen them before because they never come outside.
Never came outside.
They voted. That was telling.
Right. I agree. I think the turnout on his part was incredible. We got 71 million people to turn out for him, which is an extremely high number. I think one of the biggest, probably the best move that he made is that he encourages people to actually turn out early, to vote early. And they did. They participated in the early vote. So he didn't have a jam of people getting in on election day like he did in 4 years ago. So he had that working for him, and he had the fact of the matter that he just hit a chord with his voter base, and they brought him home. They just decided, despite everything about him, they still liked him, and they still wanted him to come back. And they didn't. I think the overwhelming majority of Americans, probably, particularly all those who voted, probably were a little hesitant about voting for a woman. They also were very hesitant about voting for an African-American woman at the same time. So you add that together, the comfort factor comes into play. And if the person doesn't like you, you don't get elected. I mean, they have to like you first. They have to want you first. That's just a question of people getting to the polls. He made all the necessary arrangements to go to the polls. He didn't run a very high-tech campaign like a lot of the Democrats did with the texting and the social media piece. He did a lot of mailing to a lot of senior citizens, and they read the mail, as opposed to some of the young folks or the younger folks in our community doesn't. We usually get our information a lot different. He tailored his campaign effort to where his voter and his voter base was, and he got the results that he wanted. So I give them a congratulations from a political professional. As a political professional, I congratulate him on the win. But it's going to be a bitter pill, and America's going to have a real rough 4 years, I think, in the very near future. And lastly, I think the biggest chill that you think you and I were affected, I think the Ukrainians are probably more affected than anyone else. Don't even mention what the Palestinians what they're going to be going through in the very next.
Well, we got Larry on the line.
Okay.
Yeah, Larry, thank you for holding. Larry, you're on with Mr. Sterling Henry.
Yeah. Hi, Doctor. Hi, OT.
Hey, hi. How you doing?
You know, I was looking at a documentary with James Carville on it. Now, James Carville was President Clinton campaign manager. Am I correct, OT?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said
he wasn't the campaign manager. He was one of his lead consultants and strategists.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the leaders of the campaign.
Right? They did a documentary on him.
It's about winning, stupid.
He's a smart dude. He has that accent that they think, boy, but he's a smart brother. And they asked him about certain things about politics, and he's down with the Democratic Party. He said something to me, on his documentary that I thought about. He said that the Democrats had too many preachy women. He was serious about that. And I said if he would have put the adjective preachy black women, he wanted to say that, but I don't think by being a white boy from the South, he couldn't say that. And you know why I'm saying that? Because every time I watch MSNBC and they had some spokesperson talking about Kamala Harris, the Democrat, it was usually disproportionately a black woman. You know what I think? I'm suggesting what I think happened. When Karen seen them, she was intimidated. They didn't have enough white women going after talking about the white women. You know, you had sisters talking about, and we talked about this before, Doctor. I think 13% of black men voted for Trump this time, which isn't many. 87% of us didn't. So, you know, that had a lot to do with it. And I think by not having the right tact thing, which I don't think that Karen didn't mind, because here's my final analysis.
Get to your point.
Her brother, her uncle, her nephew, her cousins, her friends, she just ain't going to go against them, y'all. And so, you know, Trump is one of them. So Karen just ain't going against that male population.
Well, I think when the analysis is true, you're going to find that you're partially correct that the majority of white women probably did vote for Trump.
I think we needed to break.
We needed to break at least. We need to break at least 60 to 65% in order to win this election. And since we're now 5 million votes short, that to me seems to be where it is. His turnout was incredibly good in places where he needed them to turn out. And ours was okay. In most cases, it didn't meet the same number that we had for Joe Biden's election. And that's the key component. His turnout was everything, and he turned his folks out.
A chance, and I'm usually
Larry,
I look at numbers.
Larry, wrap it up before we go to break. Go ahead.
Okay, I look at numbers, but you know, it's just that when I seen what Karen is about, and looked at the election of last time, I was bamboozled.
Thank you, Larry. We appreciate that, man. I think, Dr. White, you established that early on. Early on, you were like, hey, look, as optimistic as people were, the patterns held true to form.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Correct.
rural white
Correct.
women, suburban white women, and professional white women they did Tammy Wynette. They stood by their man.
Yeah, especially after the guy said on there that it would be tantamount to cheating, right? He said if wives are going into the ballot box and they're voting for Kamala Harris, it's likened to having an affair, is what he said.
And they heard him. Now, were you surprised by that, Mr. Henry?
No.
No, none of us saw. But Sterling, I do have a question though. I really do. I want to pick your brain on this.
Go ahead.
What does this say? He's now projected to be the president-elect What does this say about all of the charges that he's been convicted of?
Yeah, great question.
Some charges he's still facing.
Yeah,
What like where are we? Is the president-elect?
You asking that question, but you know what's going to happen.
I'm just saying. I mean, you gonna pardon yourself? Like, what's up? Like,
you just want him to say
I'm asking a political guru. I'm just an educator. I want it from the mind of the political guru.
Answer Dr. Wyatt question. Look, Dr. Wyatt lawyering on us now. She know the answer to that question. Go ahead, Mr. Sterling.
I think there won't be another trial on the president at all. To be blunt, I think I would be curious about the sentencing that he was supposed to be receiving. That's going to go out of the window.
But how? How does that go out of the window? Because if I'm facing charges, can I use the president as a precedent?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm convicted of something, I mean, there's black men all over this city right now watching a 34-time convicted felon win the White House, and he still has yet to be sentenced. So can we use him as a precedent to say that, they say I did it. Yeah, I got convicted of it, but I don't really have to go to jail?
No, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. We won't be able to do that.
Say it again, Sterling.
No.
There is no. But what I will say is that there is a level of immunity that takes place with the president when you become president of the United States.
So is that why they put off his sentencing? That's why they.
And that was my most disturbing point. I thought there was no excuse to put off his sentencing at all. I thought there was absolutely no excuse, and I still have a problem with the judge, as aggressive as he was in that case, for him to turn around and not to put forth a sentencing requirement. He kept saying throughout the trial that, I'm treating you just like every other.
But he was lying, just like Susan in accounting.
That's what happened. Obviously, the judge changed his mind and felt some political pressure to do it in another way, and that may have had more of an effect upon the election than many people will ever realize in the very near future.
Look, we got to go to break. When we come back, we'll have about 6 or 7 minutes left after that. Can you hold for us, please?
Sure.
Thank you. This is Sterling Henry, former White House executive, political lab, Dr. White.
I'm just asking. I just was asking a question. I wanted to know because I need to know, should I walk on the wrong side of the street and they get me for jaywalking or something?
The answer is no.
All right. So that don't work for me.
Can you say you Dr. White? you know what the answer is?
No.
WBOK 12:30 a.m.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Station?
Our station.
You know it's our station. We'll be back after the break.
This is your news update for WBOK 1230 AM from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Today will be mostly sunny and warm. We have chances for scattered showers, but it looks like it'll be less than Tuesday. Today's highs rise to the mid to upper 80s. Still watching Hurricane Rafael as it moves closer to the Gulf of Mexico. We could see impacts by the weekend, but still very undetermined. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that as we do get closer. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
September is National Recovery Month and time to celebrate the millions of Americans in recovery. Metropolitan Human Services District wants to remind you that treatment is effective and everyone can recover. If you are looking for a recovery program and you live in the Orleans, St. Bernard, or Plaquemines Parish, visit mhsdla.org or call 504-568-3130. Recovery is possible and MHSD is here to help. Metropolitan Human Services District, where we change lives.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present the Keeping You Well Cafe, 60 minutes of LCMC Health, where doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of healthcare in the New Orleans area, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. Over the next few months, LCMC Health will join WBOK and local businesses to answer your health and wellness questions. Through this partnership, LCMC Health will provide resources to the community, including subject matter experts from the hospitals that will share expertise on health concerns and wellness practices to help you live your best life. Tune in to WBOK during the last hour of the reality check, or catch us at lcmchealth.org and follow us on social media.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon to What's Growing New Orleans. Hosted by Angel Vanderpool, What's Growing New Orleans is a weekly conversation about developing and growing Black businesses throughout the region. Brought to you by the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
This is wellness advocate and host of Change Your Water, Change Your Mind, Pastor David Patan. Every week, I'm educating you on how to be healthier by making simple changes to your diet. So join me every Saturday at 1 p.m. and let's get better together. Only on WBOK 1230. What New Orleans is talking about.
Greetings, WBOK family. This is Jason Clark, host of United Way and You. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 12 p.m. when we'll be speaking with Melanie Richardson, co-founder and executive director of Training Grounds, a United Way funded partner. The topic will be the We Play, We Connect Family Resource Hub. Please tune in if you're able. Until then, we only have one life to live, so live united.
Experience the heartbeat of New Orleans at the 2024 Treme Creole Gumbo Festival. Join us on November 9th and 10th as we indulge in an array of gumbo offerings crafted by local chefs, each bringing their unique touch to this classic dish. Live performances featuring the Soul Rebels, Brassaholics, Tanya Boyd Cannon, Charmaine Neville Band, and many, many more. Visit us at www.tremegumbofestival.com for more information.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Brian Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK 1230 AM.
We are back, man. Oh, back to sir. And Mr. Henry said, no.
No. He had to do me like that. He put an exclamation point behind that.
I really didn't mean to. But I just want to, I'm in a mood right now. Let's face the reality in which we have right now.
Yeah.
And like I leave your listeners and everyone else with the beginning, well, what I said in the first. Politics is a very funny thing. It is the one thing in life you can do it all perfectly and still lose.
So here will be.
All I'm saying is that you got to remember that, and things can happen in politics that you may never expect, despite your greatest plans and your greatest resources that you put inside of it. It can still go wrong.
So Sterling, help us understand this. What are the implications of him now having the White House? They're leading in control of the House. Yeah. They have secured the Senate, and they have the majority on the Supreme Court. What does that look like for us?
And the Dow Jones just rose almost a record
soaring.
number.
They use the word soaring
right now.
So what are the implications of having control over all of these different facets of government?
I think you're going to be able to, I think the first year, particularly the first 6 months after his election, you're going to try to see the Congress get through a host of legislative activities that the president wants to put forward. The president-elect wants to put forward. One of them will probably be a tremendous tax break to the very, very high-income people in this community, with a minor tax break to people that are middle class in that result. I think you're going to see a big push from people trying to get rid of the Department of Education. So if you need financial aid, student financial aid, you may not
Ms. Andrew, Dr. White,
not be there next
Dr. White dealt with that earlier this morning. She said Amber Rose is going to be the Secretary of Education.
Right, Sterling?
And I wouldn't doubt it.
See what I'm saying? See, Sterling understand what I'm talking about. Like, because if you don't care about something, you're not sending a steward of it. You just putting a placeholder there.
Hey, look, we got a caller. Let's get our caller. We're almost out of time, but I want to get our caller.
Go ahead.
Big John. John, you're on with Mr. Sterling Henry. Hey, John. What did I tell you last night? I told you. I told you what was going to happen last night when the numbers start coming in. Go ahead.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Hey. You know, I thought it was going to be a late surge because Democrats are generally
I laid it out to you,
people.
Papa.
But something you still hadn't forgotten. He ain't made it to the White House yet. And the globalists and your whatchamacallums are upset about it, and the neocons are upset about it.
That's
they're still trying to bust that head. But let me go ahead and finish this up.
You heard him get your point in.
Well, some of the reasons the Democrats lost, man, because I'm looking at you and Dr. Wyatt on Facebook right now. I know what a woman is, and I know what a man is. Okay.
No, that played a role. There's some people who touched in that. That got a lot of people out like in that map that Dr. Wyatt and I talked about because they voted against boys being in the girls' locker room and bathroom.
Right.
That worked. Think about it. Think about it. Would you want, if you had a daughter, a young daughter or something, to walk in the bathroom and a big old man like me and you there hanging and swinging?
And I don't even want to think about that.
Well, I feel like a woman today. Man, that would traumatize that child.
Hey, Big John, we got him. We move on. We'll get him to address that. Wait. Uptown B, we got to get you in. I can't end this program without getting your comment in. You're on with Mr. Henry. B?
Good morning.
Hey, B, we got
Good morning.
B, we got about a minute and a half left.
Okay.
You're on.
Transgender issues, less than 1% of population. It's a throwaway issue. So what is Biden going to do to codify what he can do now is to protect what we have secure now? Thank you.
Great question.
His biggest piece is going to be the proper government. He's going to try to work his program to the best of his ability and maybe trying to institutionalize or make permanent certain things that the president couldn't undone. But that's a very difficult thing to do. He has some really smart people working with him. And if anyone can pull it off, it's Biden. But it's going to be a very difficult process to make, particularly when you don't have the Senate and the House not coming back until December. If they don't come back until December, it's going to be, it may not have enough time in order to do some of the things that he needs to do in order to make it all happen. You got to remember one thing. The new members of the House and the Senate come on board on January 4th, not January 20th. So very soon after the Christmas holidays, they'll be there in place, and they're going to start the process of electing a new speaker.
I want you to deal with something in the 2 minutes we have left, especially because of who you are in your resume. What a lot of people don't know, you, Donna Brazile, and many others, y'all were crisscrossing this country for Al Gore. It was one of the major disappointments in the campaign. But you said, in lecturing, you said to some people, hey, look, this may not be fair, it may not be what we want, but there are enough checks and balances in this country that you believe then to protect us from someone going too far. Do you still feel the same way?
I still firmly believe that. There's a lot of checks and balances. The Supreme, it takes a while. Things can be stopped by a federal district court judge as opposed to going all the way to the Supreme Court. It can be delayed that much. And there's some very good lawyers on our side of the stories that can delay all types of activity, just like there were very good lawyers on their side that can delay a lot of activities. But you also got to remember there's certain pieces of legislation, the veto power, the ability to pass bills that in the Senate, you're still going to need a 60-vote majority to stop the filibuster in so many cases. And that's something they're going to have to achieve. Now, we don't know what the final Senate is going to look like, but I can assure you, if we come, it's going to be a tactic that many of the Democrats are going to be using is the 60-vote filibuster rule.
Thank you.
And that's something we're going to have to do.
Thank you, Mr. M.A. Safe travel, man. When you coming back home?
I'm leaving Alabama today. My candidate won. The figures, we have a new African-American congressman in the state of Alabama. So they're celebrating that.
Thank God for small victories.
Help got that one through. And hopefully before the Senate, the House, all the votes come in, you may have a tighter House of Representatives before it's over with. But who knows? We really won't find that out probably until this time next week.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Kudos and congratulations, Dr. Eric Jones, man. he had exceeded the 50% man. Then when the final votes came in, he was below 50. But for someone who worked their butt off and who put in an effort, and shout out to his campaign team, Noonie Man, Mr. Parker, and many others. There were days that they were the only ones out there on the street. So, man, Doc Jones, man, good job.
Miss Alicia worked really hard for Eric Jones as well. Listen, I mean, grassroots will always have a part of my heart because I understand the authenticity in that. Going out and earning a vote, knocking doors, talking to folks, showing up at forums. So I hate that he had to be pushed into a runoff, but the work continues.
Yeah, and the work does continue. Well, WBOK 1230 AM, not the back porch of the side porch,
but the front porch.
Show up on this point because they're going to continue this conversation a whole lot more all the way to the reality check. WBOK 1230 AM.
What New Orleans is talking about.
Oh, yeah, they talking about it.
Yeah, they talking about it.
Station?
Our station.
Guess what?
We from New Orleans, not Louisiana.
It's our station, baby. New Orleans. Ain't no NOLA. It's New Orleans.
Ain't no NOLA. New Orleans.
It's low 9. Ain't no J. It's Al J. Have a great day.
See y'all tomorrow.